Hello, folks. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Pablo de Jesus. I'm with the Unitarian Universalists for Social Justice, one of the partners with the Unitarian Universalist Solidarity Initiative, and I'm joined today by my lovely friends and colleagues over at our sister organization, the UU Service Committee, and our fabulous guest from ASAP, Christina. We've got an interesting and hopefully informative and meaningful evening this evening planned for you. But I'm going to ask, as is our good custom in most Zoom environments these days, to please put into the chat your name, your state, maybe the name of your congregation, a land acknowledgement if you choose to do that. And also add just like one joyful note of why you do this work, something that calls you to do this work. Those of us who care about immigration justice in its various forms, we know that it's a long journey towards mercy and justice. And part of the spiritual discipline in this work is to remember why we do it and to celebrate the joyful moments. So help us do that. Let's get a little rainfall going in the chat of reasons that we do this. And I think with that, I'm going to kick it over to our colleague, my friend in the work, Reverend Laura.
Hello, friends. It's really good to be with you. I'm Laura Randall. I use she, her pronouns, and I work for UUSC. And I'd like to invite us to begin our time this evening with a centering, a chalice lighting, if you have a chalice nearby. And if you don't, that's okay. I've got one to light for all of us. These words are by our colleague, the Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson. In these wild, historic, and uncertain times, we gather to remember who we are, who we belong to, and what we are called to do. As we light this chalice, we kindle the spirit of the great turning, the movement for justice alive in this nation today. May we feel it in our bones, and in the stillness of this hour, may we sense it calling our name. May it be so.
Thanks so much. Um, so I have the pleasure of just trying to, and at a high level, uh, articulate for you the the seriousness of what we do as you use what we're doing this evening. I think it's fair to say that as a faith tradition, we take the inherent dignity of every person very seriously. It's been in our principles, it's in our commonly held religious values. It appears in the way that we speak to each other and strive to relate to each other. And in the immigration justice space, that is a key taproot for the work. Because if we did not care what was going on for our friends, our neighbors, our loved ones, our kith, our kin, then we would not be called to do this work. So I would just simply ask you to know that none of us is perfect, but that we as Unitarian Universalists have a special opportunity to use our relative privilege in society, in the American economy, on behalf of folks who don't always have the same access to the halls of power and the ears of decision makers. And tonight, we're going to be talking about a public comment opportunity, and that is such an opportunity. We urge you to think about the folks that you know and who have been suffering, or the ways in which you connect to the issues. But more than anything, please understand that this is part of the great work of weaving our way towards justice. We in the Unitarian Universalist community feel that we're the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice, but our current UUA president is a textile artist, and she has been teaching all of us to think about how we are weaving our way towards justice and more just outcomes. So, with that in mind, please remember that tonight we are engaging in the great weaving together. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our lovely, amazing, super smart, uh, amazing guest, Christina Moreno from ASAP. And she's going to be giving us some sort of high level context for the work that we're doing today. Okay. And let me switch the spotlight and then I'll hand it over to her. Christina, feel free to introduce yourself and say anything you want the audience to know about you that I didn't cover.
Thank you so much, Pablo. And thank you, Reverend Laura, as well, and Pablo, for your beautiful opening remarks. It's a privilege to be here with you tonight. Thank you for taking the time. My name is Christina Moreno. I use she, her pronouns. I'm policy counsel at the Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project, also known as ASAP. I'll share a little bit more about my organization and then talk about this proposed federal regulation and this opportunity to take action. Um, so ASAP is a membership organization made up of people seeking asylum in the United States. ASAP members come from 175 countries to seek safety in the United States. Very briefly, asylum is a form of immigration status for people who are afraid to return to their country of origin. The asylum process in the United States is complex, it is hard to navigate, and it can take a long time. Many ASAP members have waited for years, sometimes up to a decade, for the government to process their cases. We frequently hear from our members that they want to contribute to their communities and to provide for themselves and their families while they wait for the government to process their cases. Members frequently say they want to be able to obtain a work permit and to maintain work authorization while their cases are pending. And this is a top priority that we've heard directly from people seeking asylum. And under US law, people seeking asylum are eligible for a work permit, but there are many legal barriers which make it hard to quickly obtain a work permit that folks are eligible for. And recently, the federal government, the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, proposed new federal regulations to make that process even harder. And I'll talk more through some of those specific changes. But at the outset here, I want to highlight what we hear from our members when they talk about access to work authorization and just how critical it is. Members have said and expressed to us for example, that, access to a work permit is access to money to rent for a mortgage, for stable housing and shelter. Access to a work permit is access to food, to water, to electricity, to legal counsel to pursue their asylum claims, as well as to transportation. Often a driver's license is tied to having a valid work permit as well as a professional license. Many people seeking asylum work in healthcare or provide other services which require a professional license that's tied to having a valid work permit. And so access to work permit allows people to find jobs that match their skills and to provide for themselves and their children while they're going through this very long and arduous process. So just to sum all of that context up, access to a work permit is really critical to health, safety, and to well-being. And we know that when people have that stability while they're going through this legal process, it's good for kids, it's good for families, it's good for communities who benefit from asylum seekers' contributions, and for businesses who may be looking to hire and to expand their growth. So I want to provide that context about what access to work permit means about the asylum process, and also highlight, as we've heard already today, that we are in unprecedented times, and these regulatory changes are not happening in a silo. They're happening amidst so many other changes, and these specific proposed changes will just make the process even harder for people who are here to find stability and safety in the United States. And it's important to highlight, not only are these changes devastating for people who are seeking asylum themselves and for their families, but they do have ripple effects and lasting consequences for communities across the United States. That being said, the good news is that there is something we can do about it. You do not have to be an expert to take action and to engage on this issue, and that everyone here tonight can have a role in shaping the regulations that are implemented by the federal government by engaging during the public comment process. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the specific proposed changes and then about this regulation itself to provide more context for the opportunity to take action. So I want to highlight at the top that this new federal regulation is a proposed regulation. It is not final and it is not yet in effect. What's happened is that the Department of Homeland Security has published the changes they plan to make, and they've asked the public, individuals, and organizations to submit written feedback about the proposed changes. And it's important to engage and to submit comments for a couple of different reasons. First, the government may choose to remove certain harmful provisions if many people express concerns about those provisions. Second, a final rule could be delayed if the government needs more time to respond to many different concerns. And third, a court can prevent the final rule from going into effect if the government fails to respond to every concern they receive during the comment period. And the key to engaging during this period is to make sure the comments are unique. If the government receives many identical comments, they will treat them all as one comment. So the more unique, the better. And the strongest comments talk about why the proposed changes are harmful and explain, and specifically address some of the proposed changes and highlight, what the government did not consider when they made those proposed changes. So with that, what exactly is the government proposing here? The government is planning to severely limit work permits for people who are seeking asylum. So that those are people who have applied for asylum with the US government and are waiting for the government to process their cases. So they're currently going through the legal process. Um, for initial work permits, so the government is proposing a number of changes to make it harder to get that initial work permit after someone applies for asylum. In particular, they're increasing the waiting period that an applicant has to wait after they apply for asylum before they obtain an initial work permit. So right now, under current regulations, applicants have to wait 5 months, 150 days after they apply for asylum before they can even apply for an initial work permit. With the proposed changes, the government proposes to extend that waiting period to an entire year. So applicants would have to wait 1 full year after they apply for asylum before they could apply for an initial work permit. The government also proposes to give themselves more time to process that initial work permit application. So right now, after the government receives the initial work permit application, they are supposed to process that application within 30 days for a total waiting period of 6 months, 180 days. Under this current regulation, the government would give themselves at least 6 months to process that initial work permit application. So if you add those two waiting periods up, it'd be a whole year to wait to apply, plus potentially another 6 months to process the application for a total of about 18 months that folks are waiting without access to work authorization while their asylum cases are pending. And then perhaps most egregiously, the government is proposing to stop accepting initial work permit applications entirely in this category until they could clear the massive asylum backlog. And in the proposed regulation, the government acknowledges that it could take them anywhere from 14 to 173 years to clear the backlog of asylum cases. And in the meantime, people would not be able to apply to obtain an initial work permit. So those are some of the changes regarding initial work permits, but there, as I mentioned, there are many people seeking asylum who have been in the United States for many years and who are in the process of renewing their work authorization. And there are also changes which would impact people who are applying at the renewal stage. So the government has proposed new eligibility criteria, which would make the renewal process much more complicated, would likely increase renewal delays, which increases the risk that somebody may not receive their renewal before their current work permit expires, which can lead to a number of consequences, including potentially unpaid leave. We've heard from members who have been fired because they no longer had valid work authorization because they were waiting for the government to process their renewal. So we're also very concerned about potential renewal delays and about creating a more complicated process to renew a work permit. And then finally, I want to talk about one more change that impacts both initials and renewals. So the government has proposed a change in current regulations to allow them to deny a work permit application at their discretion. So right now, under the current system, the government can only deny a work permit application for very specific reasons if somebody does not meet the stated eligibility criteria. With this proposed change, they could deny an initial or renewal work permit application for any reason. So we're also concerned about that provision, which could potentially be very destabilizing. So those are some of the proposed changes, some context about why it's so important to engage during the comment period, and a little bit more about myself. But just really want to thank everyone for their advocacy tonight. This is a time-sensitive opportunity to act. The federal government has asked for public comments for between now and April 24th. They opened up a 60-day comment period. So that deadline is coming up in about a month. And after they receive the comments, they must read, review, and respond to them. So you are very actively engaging in the federal regulations that could become finalized. So with that, and with many thanks for inviting me to this space, I will close out, but I'm also happy to answer questions. And thank you again, Laura and Pablo, for the time today.
Thank you. So we want to keep on track. So if you have a burning question for Christina, we want to entertain that. But if you have something that could be put in the chat, maybe one of our other organizers can help answer it. Does anybody have a burning question for Christina? If so, please raise your electronic hands because there's just enough of us on here that I won't be able to see you and recognize you. Okay, I'm not seeing any burning questions. So I'm going to invite my lovely friend in the work, Jessica, to come on through and speak to us about what we're going to be doing this evening. Thank you so much, Christina. We deeply appreciate your participation and presence with us here this evening. Thank you for being a leader in the work.
Great. Thank you so much, Pablo. And I will echo Pablo's thanks to you, Christina. Christina leads a work permit coalition that is a coalition of many advocacy organizations that are interested in this work. And it's always a pleasure to work with you, Christina. But welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with all of you tonight. My name is Jessica Sapalio. I use she, her pronouns, and I am with UUSC. I run our community accompaniment program with asylum seekers, supporting congregations and community groups all over the country that partner with asylum seekers in their communities. And I see several of our CAPAS teams on this call tonight. So special shout out to all of you, and thank you for the work that you're doing with asylum seekers. But I'm here tonight to talk about what we are all, as UUs, going to do about this horrible proposed rule. Today, the UU Solidarity Initiative, which some of you may have heard of, Solidarity Initiative is a national partnership of national immigrant justice focused organizations in the UU universe. So that's UUSC, UUSJ, UUA's Side with Love, UUMA, URISE, QSAN, and Borderlinks, all working together on immigrant justice issues in this critical time. And we launched today our work permit comment campaign, and we're so glad you're here for our launch tonight. I'm going to share my screen and show you some resources that we have put together for all of you, not only to make comments yourselves and with your organizations, but also hopefully to get your congregations involved in comment campaigns. So give me 1 second while I share my screen. Okay, so this is our landing page, and we'll be dropping the link in the chat for all of you. But this is a resource that you can return to and share out to folks. Um, but you'll see here, there's information about the issue that Christina just described, some more information about why your voice matters. And I should mention that our strategy in this campaign is we know that the administration is unlikely to make major changes purely based on these comments. We're realistic here. But our strategy is to delay and to fight. You know, echoing what Christina said, the more comments, the more unique and substantive comments, the better, and that will help delay implementation of this rule, and also provide the grounds to fight. If they do not address the issues that are raised in the comments, that gives reasons and grounds for litigation. So that's what we're doing by setting these up. So don't feel like they're just gonna, go out into the ether and not be paid attention to. The numbers and the substantive comments really matter here. So we've put together a few campaign resources. The first is a comment guide. So this will walk you through, and I'm going to also put the link to that in the chat because you're going to use it tonight. But the comment guide will give you, again, background information, but also some comment prompts to help you write your comments. We really want these to be individualized comments based on your own experience, the experience of individuals you might know or work with if you specifically know asylum seekers, or know how they impact your communities. So we have some prompts that you can use, and then it's really important that you write your own unique comment for these because the government will group any comments that are the same and kind of count them as one. So this comment will walk you through how to make the comments, whether you're an individual or making a comment on behalf of your congregation with your congregation's leadership's approval, of course, or if you're an organization and can comment on as an organization, or if you can do all three of those, even better. So there's specific information about how to comment as each of those. And for the organizations, we've included a very detailed template that ASAP put together for organizations. Then we've got a coffee and comment toolkit. And this is where we really need you guys to take leadership in bringing this to your congregations. What we're hoping for is that you will set up
It seems like we may have lost Jess with internet connectivity. So I am going to try to step in where Jess left off. But with the Coffee and Comments campaign, we have put together an entire toolkit that will let people bring this to their coffee hours. We have flyers, we have table tents, we have ways to explain what we're talking about tonight to folks in your congregation. And you can bring it to your coffee hour. You can have people make comments right there on their phones, or you can bring some laptops there, whatever you got to be able to have folks make their own unique comments in support of this work at your coffee hour. And we're having congregations can put their own goals for how many comments they want to generate at their own coffee hours. So you can, you know, get 50 or maybe even 100, whatever seems good to you. We can have that happen at your coffee hours and let us know. There's a way to do that in the coffee hour toolkit. You will see where you can let us know how many comments you're able to generate through these actions, and we will add it to the total that people all over the country are doing. So that information will be coming to you as well. We'll put a link to the comments and coffee hour toolkit in the chat, and it'll also be sent to you as well, along with these other helpful materials.
Laura, I'm sorry, my internet went out, so
It's all right, Jess, we got you. Teamwork, making the dream work. So I was just going through the goals for the comments and coffee hour, and I think we're all set to move on from that. So if there was a
Okay.
next thing after that piece, go for it.
Perfect. Sorry about that, everybody. Our whole house internet just went out. Okay, so we've got the comment guide, the coffee and comment toolkit. We have social media assets, so you can customize these and share them out on your congregation social media or your personal social media. So all of that's here to download. We are also going to have an action hour like this one, but with different hosts and different guest speakers every single week until April 24th. So I hope that you'll spread the word, and please, if you'd like, join us at another one of these action hours as well. So now I want to switch over to our action tonight, which is we're hoping that you will write your individual comment this evening. So let's see, I'm going to drop if this work permit comment guide, going to drop the link to that in the chat. If I can grab that. Okay, so that comment guide is in the chat. And once you have a chance to open it, if you scroll down there, you will see, or you can click on the link inside at the top of the document where it says sample comment prompts. And that will take you down. And there are about 6 different comment prompts based on, if you want to write about community impact or from the faith perspective, values-based comment, if you run a small business, if you have a personal connection to an asylum seeker. You do not have to use any of these. And again, we want you to personalize them. So please, any of the issues that Christina talked about, you can comment on in terms of things that you don't like about this rule. And you can comment and say, we don't want the entire rule to happen, of course. And we are going to do that on the Federal Register. So I will also drop that direct link into the chat. Okay, so when you get to the Federal Register, you will see this comment block, this white comment block. That is where your comment is going to go. If later, if you're writing a longer piece for an organization or your congregation and you want to attach a file, you can definitely do that here as well. You can put in your email. And then here is where you mark if you're commenting as an individual, an organization, or anonymous. Yes, you can comment anonymously. We do request, if possible, if you feel safe to comment as an individual, that you do that. This is a real chance for us to use our privilege to put our names on things, whereas other people, like the asylum seekers that we work with, may not feel comfortable putting their names on a comment. But having comments with names on them does carry a little bit extra weight. So if you feel comfortable, please do. You can put it'll, if you say that you're an individual, it'll ask for your name, first name and last name. You do not need to put any other information. But if you do want to put city and state, that just shows that there's a larger, wider representation. Anything information that you put, both your comment and your personal information, will become part of the public record. And then you'll go down and you'll say, I understand, and you'll hit submit. As an organization, it asks your organization type and organization name. So if you're doing it as an organization or a congregation, you would select that. Or if you're doing it anonymously, it will not ask you for any information. So preference is individual and or organization, but if you don't feel comfortable doing that, please still do the anonymous. They are still valuable comments. So you'll go ahead and take one of those prompts in the comment guide, or or come up with one completely on your own, write it in here, and then hit submit. So that's what we're going to be doing this evening together. We're going to have about 20 or so minutes to go ahead and write your comment. And then we hope that you will share this out, set up a coffee and comment session, etc. Right now, I will stop sharing. If anybody has a burning comment that you feel would kind of benefit the whole group, I invite you to raise your hand and ask that now. Otherwise, if you have a technical question that might just be you, we have a breakout room. If you click on the more at the bottom, you'll see breakout rooms, and my colleague Ivana will be in that room to help answer your questions. I do see in the chat someone said, does the proposed rule have a specific number or other way to refer to it? Yes, it does. We'll drop that here, and it's in the document, the comment guide document at the top. It is helpful if you put that number in your comment.
And I just want to sound off here and just say, you don't necessarily have to do a comment tonight, but it's really important to at least start drafting a comment. Okay. So if you are the kind of person who wants to write it and then think about it and then submit it, please commit to submitting it and absolutely commit to starting it tonight. Open a Google document or a Word document or whatever and start using the materials that we're offering to begin drafting your comment.
I'll get this off of headphones.
We started, I think he's gone.
Are there any other burning questions for Jessica or myself or any of the other crew on the call that have been working tirelessly to pull this all together for you? No? Okay. Well, then if not, you have the breakout room for questions. Ivana has graciously agreed to be in the breakout room to answer some questions. And we're going to sort of go on mute and we're going to ask people to begin drafting, if not actually submitting your comment. And we'll give it about 25-ish minutes and then we'll reconvene you. Thank you so much, Jessica.